that was a manifestation too, which we'll have to talk about another time. I like to go on my phone.
We're streaming, I think. It says
Hello, everybody. Yes, we are streaming live here. And do I have a treat for you guys? We have Mick Petersen, who's the author of Stella and The Timekeepers. And he has the Success Book Club, which we're going to talk about. Mick and I have already been chatting. And it's such a privilege to have you here, Mick, and to donate your time. One of the reasons, by the way, I'm your hostess, Tish Ambrose. I am a life and business coach. And one of the reasons that I wanted to create this weekly inspiration show and have experts come on is to inspire you to know that dreams do come true, right, Mick? They do. And that you can manifest anything you want, and just to bring some light and love into the planet, to be that change that we want to see in the world. We have to become it first, right, Mick?
That's right. We are the change.
We are the change. So Mick, before we dive into some really good stuff, I just want to say Mick and I have met through Bob Proctor, the Bob Proctor community, which is one of the most amazing communities that you can be a part of. I'm just so blessed to know all these people. And Mick and I have both been inspired so much by Bob Proctor throughout our lives. I've been following Mick's success because Mick has published this amazing book, Stella and the Timekeepers. And I've just watched your journey, Mick, so I wanted to have you come on and tell us how you did it. So if you could tell us a bit about you and your journey, a little bit about yourself first personally. Where did you grow up and what was your childhood like?
Well, Tish, thanks for having me on. And the Bob Proctor community is full of inspiring people that I learn from every day. So I'm excited that we met through them and that we are friends. So thank you for that. So I grew up, well, I was born in the Portland, Oregon area. So I'm a native Oregonian, and I moved to I think my formative years, I lived on a ranch in New Mexico on the banks of the Rio Grande, riding horses and running through the deserts from the ages of 7 to 11. And that's really, I believe, where my imagination flourished. There wasn't television because we didn't have television signal. We did sometimes sit in front of the rabbit ears, looking at all of the static, but mostly it was just an opportunity to pretend, lots of pretending. And I think that's where it came from. So that's why I put that into the idea of being a fiction author. So I've loved doing that. So the story of Stella came to me in a dream. I was at a pretty low point in my life, and my job before I retired, I was a flight attendant for almost 22 years. And one time I remember landing in Mexico City, and they told me to get my bag, that we were grounded. And I said, no, I have to go back to board up my properties in Galveston, Texas. And they said, because of the hurricane, and they said, you're grounded because of the hurricane. So I was there for 5 days. And I remember that night I was in my hotel room, despondent, because I was thinking that I was about to lose everything because this hurricane is bearing down on the island. And that night I had a dream, and the dream, it was, so imagine like a being with wings and a tail coming out of a pool and beckoning me on. Then that same, almost like a ghostly enigma, gave me this story, this concept. So I just thought, I remember before I had this dream, years before, I was caught up in the Harry Potter excitement and Hunger Games excitement. And I thought, wouldn't it be nice? And you taught me that just now. But wouldn't it be nice to write a series like that was successful or whatever? And so I left it at that. And then 3 years of thinking about the concept of the book resulted in me doing Nanowrimo, which stands for National Novel Writing Month.
Mm,
And
okay.
that was in 2011. So in 30 days, I wrote the first novel, the first draft of the novel. And then it just kind of grew from there. And my very first personal development seminar was a Bob Proctor event. It was The Science of Getting Rich in Dallas, Texas in 2014, May. And that's where I met Peggy McCall, I met Bob Proctor, Sandy Gallagher, and a whole bunch of other people, Wendy and Keith Didda. I didn't meet Phil then. But anyway, so I started working with Peggy and I launched my book. It got Phil Goldfine's attention, who's an Oscar, Emmy, and Tony Award-winning producer now. And he had me to Universal Studios and he had this big vision for this. And then in 2017, so I'd self-published the book and then he had read it. And then in 2017, we got a book deal. And the book deal happened to be with the publishers of the book, The Secret, which was, they were located in my hometown of Hillsboro, Oregon, which is such a strange thing because they're the world's largest independent book dealer or something. Anyway, and their new office, their new warehouse was literally a mile from where I grew up, my grandmother's farm. It was just the strangest sort of synchronicity. And anyway, I went for 3 years, 2 years, I went to work with the editorial staff and all that, and then it released in 2019. And so it's a 6-book series, and I'm working currently on the 3rd book. The 2nd one isn't published. But anyway, and then there's all kinds of things that, might happen with Phil Goldfine. He and I are partnering on bringing it to either the big screen or the small screen or the home theater of yours.
I sure hope so, Mick. So for those people who don't know who Phil Goldfine is, because Mick and I were talking about this, he is an Oscar winner, film producer. So he picked up your book and he got a huge interest in it, and he's mentoring you, right, Mick, with your book and bringing it onto the screen. I just love it that you followed that inspiration that you had in your dream. I have so many vivid dreams like that. And that you followed it and you took action on it. This is one of the things that I think that most people don't do, is they'll have a brilliant idea like yours, and then they won't act on it. And a little segue here that I wanted to tell everybody is, back when COVID hit, I was going through one of the most challenging times in my life. And I'd had a lot of tragedy before. But when I came across Mick's book, and Mick's book, by the way, is a combination of Harry Potter, Game of Thrones. It's just so cool. It was just such a great escape for me and a light, really, Mick, because his book, Stella and The Timekeepers, has got universal law of attraction interwoven in this amazing story. And so every night I would look forward to, at the end of the day, I'm going to read this book and just get a little bit of levity. So thank you, Mick, for going through the process. And tell me, was it an easy process for those that want to write a book and want to act on a big idea like this? What's required?
No, it wasn't an easy process. However, what you have to do is you have to understand that everything that we do in life, we make sacrifices to do. And I was just willing to make the sacrifices. And that's how it came about. And that's where it got to where it is. And it was a dream. It was a dream that I feel was given to me. And then along the way, it sort of unfolded like a flower blooming. And I have a book that will be here long after I'm no longer here. And I think that's the most exciting thing, is there's a legacy to it. And it's so nice when I hear when you said that you enjoyed the book, that you loved the book, that it was a good escape. That's all I wanted to do, is bring that to the world, as well as take people away and give them some pleasure, because not everything that is happening in our world is fun, So yeah, I hope that people can escape.
Well, what's really cool about the book is even though it's a fiction, you're still you're learning universal law through the book. So that is what I thought was so brilliant that you, like I said, put that in there and in such a great way. Yeah, those people that have this desire and that they want something, like, Bob teaches us, am I able and am I willing, right? Am I willing to do what's required to have this dream come in and manifest into reality? And you answered the question. You said, yes, I'm going to make the sacrifices that are necessary. And then here you are, right? Experiencing your dream.
What's interesting about it is that when you say yes to a dream, you make that decision, you think you know how it's going to turn out or what it will be like when you fill in the blank. However, along the way, things are not always like that. So you have to accept the decision and then those things that come with it. And I think that's a really important thing to understand. A lot of people, when it doesn't happen instantly, or it doesn't happen exactly the way they want it to happen, when they start putting dictates and mandates on it, that's when they quit. So you have to be willing and able.
Yes.
And you have to be willing to be able, because there's a lot of parts to this writing that I didn't understand. I didn't understand how many different processes there are with writing. So there's a creative writing, which I'm really good at, just making stuff up. And then when you bring different editors in, I think I had 10, 12 editors through the process. And boy, each one of them demanded something completely different. I wasn't expecting it. I remember getting it was nearly the final draft, and so it had all been electronic until that point. And I got this physical, it was like 600 pages. So the book is roughly 300 pages, 320 something pages. So it was single-sided on regular paper. It was printed out and it was marked through, and there were questions. It was all in a different color pen and going through. And then there was a 70-page supplemental next to it where there was areas where the editor couldn't fit in all of her ideas. And so she put it in. So I remember reading it. It took me 3 days to go through everything. I read the book all the way through, and then I read the supplemental all the way through, took a deep breath, and then I read everything and kind of pieced it all together. And that was right before Christmas of 2019. And I just put the book aside until the day after Christmas Day, and then I got to work because I only had till January 7th to get everything done. And I pulled all-nighters. It was incredibly tough, but when I got it done, I was so happy because I put so much into it. And that was it. My New Year's Eve, I was writing. New Year's Day, I was writing. I was really focused on making sure that I did my part. And then when it was all said and done, I remember just breaking down and crying because it was like, I did it. It was hard, but I did it. So it's really good to understand that there is light at the end of the tunnel.
I love that story. I always tell my clients, life is a combination of intending and then surrendering to what's coming, right? As you were doing. Mm-hmm. And I'm currently writing a book too, and it's definitely like a spiritual process, you could say, because you have to draw out of yourself, like Bob said, stuff you didn't even know was in there, right? Which you did. And so I just love that story because, you are going to be required to do things that you've never done before to have your dream come through, like pulling all-nighters, like course correcting, right? You're like, okay, now I have to go through this book all over again and revisit everything. So yeah, for those of you that want to, life is like this co-creation journey where we have the blueprint of the end result, and then we have to be like a rocket ship going to the moon, as Maxwell Maltz says, and keep, correcting that goal over and over. So tell us a little bit about you have this book now, it might be made into a movie. You said Disney was going to pick it up and all of that. So tell us a little bit about that process for people who want to have their books turned into a movie.
So there is no studio attached.
Mhm.
And Phil Goldfine, he's the producer, he has it. He optioned the rights to it, and he's been taking it around. He's taken it to Disney and Universal and Paramount and all these other places. And I'm not involved in that process at all. When and if it does get picked up for whatever television series, or like a bingeable series or whatever, when it gets to that point, I'll probably be getting a call from Phil. But until then, I'm not. I mean, if Phil and I talk, it's as friends. It's not as partners in this endeavor. So what happens next? Who knows? Who knows? I mean, I have a vision of where it's going. Initially, Phil had told me that to hold the vision of what I want, and then understand that this process could take 10 years. And he was explaining to me about a movie. It was a Western in the 1980s. And I think it might be called Unforgiven, but I think Clint Eastwood did it, but I'm not certain. But he said that they had fallen out of favor. Westerns weren't happening anymore. And so this guy had written this really great Western movie, and he took it around to all the studios, and everyone systematically rejected it. We don't do Westerns. So what did he do when he got done with all the studios? He started the first one and went back through. He did that 3 times. And it was finally somebody, one of the studio execs said yes, and it was greenlit, and it became one of the most successful Westerns in history. And that just goes to show you that you just have to hope for the best, and then have good advocates on your side. So I know that Phil is a really great advocate. He is a deal maker and a wheeler dealer, and he makes things happen. So in due time, it will happen if it's meant to.
So I love some points that you made, and this goes back to the law of attraction. So Phil Goldfine said, hold the vision. And this is what Bob teaches, hold the vision to the exclusion of all outside distractions, right? And then you let go of the how. You don't have to worry about the how. But sometimes you can go, wouldn't it be nice if my book got turned into a movie and I got picked up by Disney or whoever? So we talked about this manifestation process that I love, and how I've manifested big things is the wouldn't it be nice question. And I just think about it, dream about it, and then you just let it go and you don't have to worry. So what would you say is your manifestation process? Because you just manifested an amazing house that we were talking about. You have this big indoor pool. You live on this ranch. Tell us a little bit about what is your process for manifesting, do you think?
Well, I examine it in my mind. I play with the ideas, and then when I finally make a decision that that's what I want, then I visit it. Like, for example, this house. It's a ranch. Originally, when I first saw it, it was on the market for 450 acres with a house, an indoor horse arena, and a 9-stall horse area there, a shop, just a stunning piece of property with amazing views, and isolated out in kind of in the middle of nowhere. But it was so stunningly beautifully built that I fell in love with it. Every time I looked at the website, I was transported here in my mind. And I looked at it often. And I remember that I had called and asked the realtor if I could look at it. And the realtor basically said no. He wasn't going to drive that far to show it to a tire kicker. And I was like, aren't you a realtor? Isn't that what you're supposed to do? Anyway, it promptly went off the market and then went back on with a different realtor, and then it went off. And so I did nothing about it until one day I decided, that was for 2 years that I was dreaming and imagining it, even though the outside forces basically told me that I couldn't have it. I didn't believe that. Well, then I did some searching, and I found the phone number, the cell phone number of the people that were owning it at the time. And I called and I left a message and they called back, and it was so wild how it happened so quickly. Within a week, I was here with them, spent a weekend with them. The next week, we shook hands on the deal, and the next day, I moved in. It was like,
Oh my gosh.
it was crazy. And I was actually talking to my aunt last night about, because I have another business that I'm doing. I do real estate in investing. I forgot what you call it, real estate investing. Where I buy properties and then I manage them. And the goal, of course, is to create communities in apartments and apartment complexes, making them better, improving, leaving good things in my wake. That's my vision for everything that I do. So I improve it as I move along. And so I'm building this new business, and I now finally have my office up and running here, and I've now getting some hiring employees and setting people in place and getting my company set up and all of that. And I was talking to my aunt last night, and I was essentially saying to her, man, it's going so slow, la, la, la. And she laughed and she goes, you remember when you made that phone call? That was August. Do you remember that? And I was like, oh, she goes, it looks pretty fast to me. So it's interesting because I think that when I have downtime, and let's say that I sit down and I have a nice fireplace here and I'm sitting down in front of the fire, or I go on a walk or something, and I let my mind wander, I'm ambitious and I want things now, which that's probably a very American instant gratification thing. But then I'm not taking stock in what has already happened. So it's very important, that whole piece of being grateful for what you have, that always grounds me. I do live in the future a lot, in the vision, but at the same time, living in the present and being grateful for what I have.
Right. And I think because you have a creative mind, it's probably easier for you to drop into that feeling of the wish fulfilled, but with your daydreaming, how you're dreaming about being in your house and living in it. I've noticed when I've coached artists, their imagination is just so amazing that they can already see themselves. And it's like Bob says, it's a mental muscle. It just takes practice. But I found that, yeah, when I've done the same thing, when you just think, wouldn't it be nice, is really you're just daydreaming, about having it. And the other thing about manifesting fast is don't you agree that when you don't have resistance, it just comes a lot faster? Like,
completely.
Yeah.
Completely. I mean, if I would not have made that single phone call, all of this came about because I had a single phone call. I made one single phone call. And a lot of people wouldn't make that call. They'd be too frightened, or they would stop themselves from doing it, which you don't have to. And why I did it, I just thought, what the heck, I'll give it a try. Not expecting what happened, except that in my wildest dreams would not have been as wonderful as this is.
Wow. And I love it when the manifestation comes out like that, because I don't know if you know about Michael Singer and the surrender experiment story, but it's such a powerful story about how when he just got out of the way and he wasn't even trying, he manifested this $1 billion business and all this amazing cool stuff.
I read that book, but I know The Untethered Soul. It's the same singer, isn't it?
It's the same, yeah. So he has 2 books, and that's my absolute favorites. It's just an amazing story, like the journey. And it's all about the surrender. It's like the things that you guys want, for you that are watching, and Abraham Hicks talks about this, if you could just let go of that resistance, right, that we all have in the constriction and worrying and can I have this? Can I not? And you were just like, man, I'm just going to call. I dreamt about it. I'm just going to call. Your happiness was not attached to the outcome, it doesn't sound like. You were okay either way. And I think that's a state of non-resistance where you're just like, I'm okay either way. I'm okay if I get this, and I'm okay if I don't get it, right?
Right. I didn't realize that he wrote that book, the Surrender book. I'm going to find that. I know I have it somewhere and revisit it because I was so amazed by that story. Didn't he manifest a meditation place or something? Was that him?
A whole meditation place. He manifested $1 billion software company that he didn't even want, by the way.
He kept saying yes. He kept saying yes.
He kept saying yes, but his whole goal was to just silence his mind and say yes to what was showing up in his reality. It's a little bit deeper than that, but I'm simplifying it here for the sake of time. But it's basically being in a state of surrender. And I think this is the hardest part of manifestation for everybody is a lot of people can dream and they can see themselves with these big goals, but then they can't let go of the resistance that, oh, who am I to think I have this? And I'm not smart enough, I'm not good enough, or I'm not something. And so that constricts the manifestation. It keeps it from moving into form, I believe. And, I even struggle with it. I'll just be real. I have my journey, and I find that meditation really helps me a lot with that because I had a tendency, still do, it would being a little bit of a control freak. So like you, it's like, I want my manifestation, not that you're a control freak, but I'm like, I want my manifestation now, right? I visualized, I did this, so where is it? And sometimes,
where is it?
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah, I love that.
I have that too. I think that everybody does. I love, wouldn't it be nice to, or wouldn't it be nice? And I meditate too. One of the things that's interesting, Tim Ferriss?
Yes.
And he wrote a book, something of Titans. My Team of Titans, where are you?
Yeah, I haven't, of all the books, I haven't read that one. And it looks
it's like an encyclopedia. And basically it was taking the best of his podcast. Well, one of the things that I thought was so fascinating about that is these are experts and leaders in their fields and people that are Nobel laureates, and they're people that, they're just continually doing amazing things in whatever area that they're focused on. And he is trying to figure out how to life hack, how to improve and learn better and be better quicker. And so he's looking at where all of these experts, where they intersect. And the area that is the top, the thing that they all do consistently is that they meditate daily for at least 20 minutes.
Isn't that something? Yeah.
Calming the mind. Yeah. So when I heard that, I started doing meditation too. And I do meditation every morning. I get up and I have a script that I listen to, and it has great music and brain waves and stuff behind it. And so that it gets into my subconscious. And like, for example, this morning I tumble out of bed and I just walk to the space that I meditate. I'm still in that I never fully become awake. I am awake enough to put my earbuds in and hit play. And then I get calm. And the first thing that I say after the musical introduction is, I am relaxed. And every time I go, ah. And
isn't that wonderful? Yeah.
It is. It's like a whole wake up process. And when I don't do that, because there are times when, it's a weekend or whatever, and I'm going to sleep in, I don't do that process. I don't have as enlightened of a day or as a powerful day. So I always like to make sure that I do that.
Absolutely. And I find that in my meditation sessions, that's when all the ideas and creativity actually comes to me, and even stuff that I've forgotten that I have to do, which is strange too. My to-do list for the day comes to me, and it's just such a wonderful practice. I talk about it a lot in my videos. I think people who follow me are tired of hearing about it, but I wanted to say that is the best form of reducing resistance. So if you can, even 5 minutes, right, Mick, when you agree in the morning, to have that time for yourself is just so critical instead of hitting the ground running and taking off with your day. So
absolutely.
It's fun to hear that. So I am a huge book lover. I read about a book a week. I fall asleep with books, audiobooks every night, which is really bad, but I do. I'm just
I don't
admitting
know if it is.
it.
I think it's a good thing.
So tell us about your success book club, because I joined Mick's Success Book Club. I don't get on there as often as I would like to, but every time I do, Mick, I get an inspiration or a little piece of wisdom that I take with me. So can you tell us about why you started that and how people can join too?
Sure. So it's called the Success Study Club. And the idea of this came because I started working with Bob Proctor and then Peggy McCall, who has been studying with Bob for 40 years, and she's very successful in her own right. And then also Phil Goldfine. So they've become very close friends of mine. And all of a sudden, it dawned on me, I kept hearing, stay in the study, stay in the study. And I didn't understand what that meant. And I think it may have been Phil, and he just basically said, you can go down as quickly as you can go up. So you have to keep your mind in a high vibration. And the way you do that is that you study. You study the materials. You're reading. You're constantly reading something. You read the same book over and over and over. Like Bob Proctor has read Think and Grow Rich. Who knows how many times? For 50 years he's been opening that book up. And so I decided that to stay in the study, what would help me stay in the study is if I read a book a week, and then on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I would do a little discussion about that book and about what I've learned about the book. I read from the books. And so I have a list in the file section in the private group, the Facebook group, and you can just go and search in Facebook Success Study Club, and I'll pop up and you just join. It's an automatic join. And then the videos are there. You can scroll down and look. So every book that I read, there are 3, it's an hour. They're about 20 minutes each. Unless I feel like it needs more or less. Like today, I think it was under 10 minutes. And it was because I'm reading about Man's Search. I'm reading Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, which it's a tough book to read, I think, because it's about his experience in the concentration camp. And what I loved about that is, you put yourself in his position, and he, among all those Jews, they were stripped of everything, their hair, down to everything. They were just, all they had left is their bodies. And then they were given ill-fitting clothing, if any. They were just treated miserably. And they were reduced to herds of animals, and they were not taken care of. And through that, he discovered that the only thing that cannot be taken from us is our inner world, is our ability to choose our attitude towards whatever life throws at us, which to me, that has 2 meanings. First of all, the inner world is our own to share with no one. No one can get into our own head. And we have control over that. So that's the number one. The number 2 thing is that if we approach everything as an evolving, growing, learning being, we can gain something positive out of every experience if we choose. So it's about our attitudes. So anyway, I loved reading that book, but every week I'm inundated with and immersed with these concepts. So the idea came from hearing stay in the study. So this keeps me true to that idea. And hopefully people get things from my videos, which sounds like you did, which is great.
All the time. And I see other people as well. And I love it what Bob says, that when you can teach it to somebody else, that's when you really embody the concepts, right? So like I've read books in the past before I knew Bob, and I was like, okay, I read that book, I know it, which I didn't, because I wasn't applying what I read. But when you start explaining it to somebody else, that's when you really start to integrate that into your subconscious mind, I believe, and really start applying what you're reading. And that's why Bob read the same book every day, and he has for over 50 years. And look at how his life has transformed. So now, instead of buying new books, Mick. I've been going back to a lot of my old books that I have because I realized, you know what, I read it, but I don't really know that book. And let me see what piece of information, even if you just take one piece of one nugget and apply that, right? Your life is going to change. You're going to start to see results. And so I love that you're you're holding yourself accountable by teaching it, and that way you really know the material. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Another thing that I would like to do is I think I'll do the Success Study Club next year, but I'd also like to do the Financial Study Club because I find that the financial education of people in our country is so low. People don't understand. Well, first of all, they don't understand how it works. And they don't understand that after 1974, our money stopped being money and it became currency. And there's so much that we can learn from Robert Kiyosaki and Garrett Sutton, and there's a whole host of financial gurus, and I don't know if gurus is the right name, but these are people that really understand how to apply these ideas. And so I told you about my real estate venture that I'm doing. It's called Leviathan, and I've been studying with the husband of, do you remember Jacqueline McKenzie?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so her husband and I have partnered. I've been building an online program for him to teach. He's kind of taken real estate and turned it upside down. So I'm going through the process of building this company modeled after what he's taught me. And it's been a lot of fun. And here's another thing that's fascinating is that I have this vision of what I want and then surrendering to it, doing the things that are necessary. And I just hired my director of acquisition, and I have other people, and I just created a bonus system, and this is for people that are interested in helping me to build my portfolio. I have really great ways for them to make money on the side. It's like an hour a day if they want to do that, or as much or as little as they want, to make a few phone calls and talk to people who have property that may want to sell it because I can buy it. And
Gosh, I wish I would have talked to you a little while ago because I had a property I was trying to sell last year.
Oh yeah.
I think it's fabulous idea. I love the idea of the book study for finances. It's so lacking. And I always talk about why is it that it's not being taught in our schools, right? This should be like when you're a child. Here's how money works. Money's energy. Here's how you manage your money. This is why everybody's in so much debt and in so much trouble, because we haven't been taught. We're taught by our parents, and our parents may not necessarily be doing well.
And they don't know.
They don't know anything. So, and I love the opportunity for you guys that are listening to, so it's an opportunity that you're offering here, right?
Oh, sure. If somebody,
yeah.
They can always private message me, or you could connect me with them. But it's simply, I provide a list of and some training, and they make the calls, and they become part of the team. And it's surprising how lucrative this is for some of the callers. It's amazing what they do.
That is amazing. Very, very cool. Well, your mind is like all over the place. You got like all these things that you're juggling up in the air, and it sounds like it's all really fun.
Well, it's fun, but it's also, you know how you say, I got to be honest. You know, there's times when I get shots of adrenaline and fear, like, what am I doing? And then I have to calm myself down and say, come on, hold the vision and trust it. Because if you hold it and you trust it, it will unfold in divine timing.
I love that. And I think we could end this with that word trust, because years ago and even now, when I had a lot of horrific things happen, I had to change one basic belief, and that is this universe a friendly universe, right? I think Einstein posed that question. And so I had to make a decision that no matter how bad things got, and I lost a lot of people dear to me in pretty horrific ways, to make that decision that life is happening for me, and it's always for my upliftment. and for my learning, for my soul's journey, and to trust in that. As bad as it may seem, I talked to somebody who messaged me who lost her job, lost her unemployment, she lost her business. She was in such a dire situation. And so this is for you, Madeline, too, if you're watching. That you have to trust that no matter how bad it gets, that the universe is there for you, and that you can change your thoughts, you can create a different vision and completely change the course of your life, transmute the bad into something really good too, right? Wouldn't you agree with that? That we
Completely.
have that ability. Yeah.
I love, yeah, we have to trust. We have to trust in ourselves. If Bob says this, the first time I heard it, I thought that's kind of ridiculous. If we have the ability to think it, then it can be so. And I remember thinking, well, that's ridiculous, but it really can happen. So if you have it, just like what Michael Singer says, in fact, while I just looked up my phone, I'm ordering that book. I probably have it here. I'll have to go look in all my books. But anyway, The Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer. I didn't know it was the same as The Untethered Soul. Now I'm like mind blown. But what he did was he just decided that he was going to say yes to every opportunity that showed up. And that is where I'm at with my Leviathan, with my real estate investing company, is that I'm just saying yes to these opportunities. Now, do I say yes to every opportunity? No. I mean, I was offered, I think, a hunting lodge in Alaska or something. And I don't think that I'll take that. But there are so many opportunities that will come this way. And Michael Singer, he said he had to just trust that this step would take him to the next step. Kind of like what CEO of Apple, founder of Apple, Steve Jobs. What Steve Jobs says is that you can't see the dots going forward. You can only see them going back. So you have to trust that what comes your way is going to be the right thing. So keeping yourself focused on making sure that where you're going, what your ultimate vision is, that you hold that in your mind.
Yes, I love that, Nick. And it's like Bob says, if you can hold it in your mind, you can hold it in your hand, right? And I remember thinking, wow, that's so profound if you think about it. You've done it. And so what an honor, what an inspiration to have you on here. So again, just to recap, if you want to get Mick's book, it's called Stella and The Timekeepers. He has a success, I said it wrong, study club. I said book club. Sorry about that. And Mick has some opportunities. If you want to earn some money, you can talk to me and I'll connect you with Mick with real estate and some really cool things around that if you're interested in investing in real estate. But what an honor.
It's really just making some phone calls and connecting me with potential sellers. These are properties that are not on the market.
Okay.
So yeah. But anyway,
so connecting you with potential sellers. I love that. And that would be a really fun thing to do, I think. So if you're interested in that, let me know. And oh my gosh, that was so fun, Mick. I could talk about books and all this stuff forever. Like we could go on for hours with this, but we're going to have to end this call. And so hopefully, guys, you got inspired by Mick, and do follow him on in his book club. You'll get so much wisdom from him. Mick, it's an honor. Namaste, my friend. And I hope we'll stay in touch and discuss books some more.
I think we should. Yes.
Yeah, well, absolutely.
It was my pleasure to be on.
Thank you so much. Take care, everybody. Thank you for watching.